Merry meets everybody, Earthfire here. Today I'm going to be going over how I would do a basic spell. I'm not going to actually be doing a spell because I don't need to do one at this particular moment, so I'm just going to walk you through how I would do a basic candle spell, but you could use the same setup for any type of spell. Just the thing is the spell the ingredients and the spell itself would change, but the whole action of this spell will work for any type of spell work. Now, keep in mind, this is just how I do it. I don't, I think that the way that I do spell work is very unique to myself. I'm sure there's lots of people that do it this way, but, it's not talked about as much as other ways. I don't cast circles, I don't call in the quarters and all of that. I do have representation of the elements in all of my spell work, whether that's on my altar that I already have it, I already have it set up, or I have like these little vials. I have several little vials on each one of my altars that have representation of all of the elements inside them. This doesn't, because I have this huge tray here that has my elemental representation. But on my other altars that are a little bit smaller, I do use these little vials to put my representation of all of my elements in it, and then I have, my representation as I'm working. So, if you use a deity or work with some sort of spirit or something like that, you'll need to have that representation for them. Like I said, I use the elements as my primary way of doing things, so that's always present in my workings. So the first thing that I start with is I gather all of my ingredients that I'm going to be doing for the spell work. So if it's a candle spell, you'll gather all of your, your candle, your oils and powders if you're using them, your things to write on your candle, your petition, your plate to put everything on, and all of that stuff. So you'll be gathering everything that you need before you start. And then go ahead and have all of that ready at hand. So the first thing that I do is I light my working candle. And my working candle is just a working candle. It doesn't do anything but light other stuff. So it's just a candle that I've, designated for a working candle that I light my sage on, or, I light incense on. It's just a candle that burns while I'm doing my magical workings. So I light that. Then the next thing I will do is cleanse my space. I cleanse my space with sage or an incense stick normally. That's how I do things. There's many other ways of cleansing. If you can't use smoke, you could water cleanse. You can energetically cleanse. There's other ways. It's how it pertains to you. To me, I smoke cleanse my space. I'll smoke cleanse all of my items, like my candle, my petition paper, anything like that I'm going to be using in the working. The plate that the candle goes on, I will cleanse all of those things. Because things just sitting around collect energy, and it's best just to start with a clean slate. So I will cleanse all of my items. I will cleanse my entire area that I'm working in. And then, everything will be set for my working and not have anything interrupt it. Now, if you cast a circle or do any, call in the quarters or any of that, this would be the point where you would do that. Make sure that you have all of your items before you do that, because once your circle's cast, it's kind of hard to leave that area and go and get something else. So make sure you have everything gathered before you do that. And then cast your circle. I'm not going to go into how you do that because, like I said, it's not part of my practice. But, you know, there's tons of information out there to show you how to do that. So you would cast your circle, and then, you know, I will call in the elements at that point. You can call in your deities, your spirits, any spirits that you're working with, the fae, whatever it is that you're working with, you could call in at that point. And how I do that is I basically just call them. You know, I call in the elements, earth, fire, water, air, and spirit to assist me in this working of whatever my working is. So if it's for protection, to assist me in this working of protection for Jane Doe. You know, and I do that at the beginning, and I don't really have to call them in again. You can do that for every little thing you do, but I think that's a little overkill. I just call the elements in the beginning, then they're present, and then I move on to whatever else it is that I'm doing. So you can use your own way of doing that. Depending on what you're working with, that will change depending on how that deity or spirit or whatever likes to be called on, and all of that. That just pertains to each individual, you know, entity, that the way that you do that. So the next thing that I will do is, since this is a candle spell, I would start writing my petition. So how you write your petition, I have it in many spells, directions for that, but you just write your name, or whoever's name the spell work is for. So if it's for yourself, you'll write your full name and your birth date. If it's for somebody else, you'll write their full name and their birth date if you have it. Then you're going to turn it 90 degrees to the right. And then you're going to write what the intention for the spell is. So since I'm using a protection spell candle as a example this time, I would write something like, Jane Doe is protected from all harm. Jane Doe is protected from all illnesses. Jane Doe's property is protected at all times. Jane Doe's family is protected. You know, things like that. It just depends on what type of spell you're doing. I'm very straightforward. I don't use flowery words. I am straight to the point, and that's just my personality. If you want to use, you know, a poetic version of a spell, then go ahead and write it down. That's just not my personality. I'm very straightforward. I like to do things very straightforward. I like to get down to the, you know, the point and move on. But you write it however it is that you write your petitions and your spells and all of that. With a petition, I would highly suggest that you write, you know, pretty plainly what your intention is. It's okay if you kind of make it a poetic, but it does need to be understood that that's the purpose of the intention. So after you do that, then you're going to turn it 90 degrees to the right again. You're going to write your signature on here 3 times, and then you're going to fold that. If it's for working to gain something, then you're going to fold it towards you. If it's a working to get rid of something, you're going to fold it away from you. And you're just going to do that. You're going to fold it in half. You're going to turn it 90 degrees again, fold it in half again, and you're going to do that until it gets small enough to, you know, for your liking. This is a candle spell, so it doesn't need to be too small, but you know, so keep that in mind. And then I will set this aside, and then I will pull out my candle and I will start working on it. So if I was doing a protection working, I would have a coordinating candle. The color coordinating, it would be black. If you're doing a different type of candle working, it would be, you know, you would choose the appropriate color for whatever it is that you're doing. So the first thing that I start off with when I'm doing a candle is I write the person's name that it's for, and then I write the intention of what it's for, and I will just keep doing that until the candle is full. Normally I have multiple intentions for, of the same purpose. Like if I was doing my family protection, I would write each one of my family members on here, and then I would write, my intention, protect them from all harm, protect them from all illness, protect them from all unwanted energies, entities, and spirits, protect them at all times. So that's kind of along the lines of how I do it, and then I would inscribe all of that into my candle. And then if I have any space left, I will write the word of whatever it is that I'm doing. So like if I was doing protection, I would write that in the remainder of the space. I don't always use humongous candles like this. Normally I use chime candles for my spell work. My protection candles are normally this size because I do them over a long period of time. But I thought it would be easier for you to see if I used one of the big pillar candles. So then I will set that aside. And what I use to inscribe my candles is just a toothpick. You can use anything that you want. You could use a pencil even if you wanted, a pen, or athame if that's what you choose. I just find that this is the easiest for me. So I just use a toothpick. Then after that, I would move on to any type of oil that I'm using. Everything's covered in dog hair. It drives me crazy. So this is just my protection oil. So what I would do with this is I would open it up. I would put a little in the palm of my hand, and then I would run it across the candle. A lot of people will tell you different ways to do this. Myself, I think I do it different than some people will tell you to do it a certain way. Myself, I like to raise that energy, so I tend to roll it like this in my hand. So I will roll the oil in it, and I'll go like this until the whole thing's covered, and then I'll just kind of, finish rubbing the remainder in. So that's how I do it. There's lots of different ways. I just feel, for me, it makes more sense to try and, put that physical energy into what I'm doing. So that kind of, helps me raise that energy when I'm, rubbing it between my hands like this. And it just makes more sense to me. So I do that with the oil, and I will enchant that as I'm doing it. Most of my oils are already enchanted anyway, so I don't really have to enchant them prior, but as I'm, putting that energy into it, I will enchant that oil for its purpose, protection. And I will go over my what I have, my intention for the spell. So protection of Jane Doe, and I'll be thinking that as I'm doing this. So for each step, you'll be doing that. So once I get the oil on my candle, then I will move on to powders. You can use a sachet powder like this. This is one that I've made. For the life of me, I think I'm out of my protection powder, but this is just my love powder. So I made this. It's just, a bunch of herbs and different things, and I have a crystal in there somewhere, and I ground it up in my coffee grinder, and I made a powder in it. So what I would do with whatever powder I'm using, you don't have to use a sachet powder. You can use regular herbs. This is some cinnamon. This is what I am gravitated for most of my protection spells at home, or my daily protection spells, is I just put cinnamon on it. So it's already powdered. I don't have to do anything to it, and I'll just put that in the palm of my hand, and then I will do the same thing. I will just kind of roll it back and forth in my hand and try and coat that candle as much as I possibly can. Enchanting it while I do it. The same way, each step has to have that intention put into it. Otherwise, you know, it's not as powerful. So you got to tell each item what it's doing. So at this point, my candle is ready. So I would get my plate. And I say this because everything on my altar is normally off to the side because I don't have a whole lot of space. And I forgot to bring out a plate. But you would have a plate. You would place your petition underneath that plate, how you folded it. Put the plate on top of it. Burn the end of your candle until it drips a little bit, and then stick it to the plate. If you have a candle holder, that is a lot easier. You can use a candle holder, but it's hard to find. You can find candle holders for your long candles like this, but it's hard to find candle holders that fit the chime candles. So I normally just stick it to a plate. If you have a candle holder, you would do the same thing. You would just put the petition underneath the candle holder and then place your candle in the candle holder. And at that point, I always enchant it one last time for, you know, my intention. And then I will light it. So I will always keep a match or something around, and I will, you know, light it off of that. Always remember to trim your wicks if they're too long. So that is how I do my basic candle spell. After I've lit my candle, I will let it burn completely out. If I do not have the time to let it, you know, burn completely out and then I have to leave, I will snuff it with a candle snuffer. A lot of people tell you not to blow out your candles. You do whatever, you know, you feel is right. I personally snuff out my candles, but if you feel that breath is important when you blow out your candle, then that's fine too. So, but that's only if you're leaving, or if it's a multiple day candle. But I normally, if it's a chime candle for just a specific purpose, I'll let that burn all the way out, and then I will deal with the remains afterwards. If it's a candle like this one, my protection candle I use until I have no more candle left. So it's a long time. So I will light that every day. I will put my intention into it every day for the purpose that it is intended, and then I will snuff it out, and then I'll just do that every day until the candle is completely gone. And that's why I like using these big ones for my protection workings, because I can use it over a long period of time, and it really builds up that energy because I'm putting my energy into it every single day for that purpose. So I hope this was helpful. I didn't really have a spell to do at this particular moment in time, so I thought that I would just explain how I do a basic candle spell. If you're going to be doing any other type of spell, it would be the same setup. At this point, when you're letting your candle burn, you would close your circle if you have one, and then put all your items away and all of that. So like I said, I hope this was helpful. It's kind of difficult to share how to do a spell when you're not actually doing one. So I hope that I kind of got the point across of what you're supposed to do. If you were doing a different spell, you would do the basics the same. It's just the spell work itself that would be different. So you would cleanse in the beginning. You would call in your deity, spirits, elements, all of that. You would cast your circle if that's what you do. You would have gathered all your supplies before you do that. And then you would do the working itself, and then after the working is complete, you would close your circle, and put your stuff away and all of that. So it just would depend on what you're doing. if you're doing a sachet working, it would be the same way. If you're doing a poppet would be a little bit more entailed, but it's the basic beginning and ending of a spell. So, like I said, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to message me, and I will see you next time. Blessed be.